Internet, and welcome to Rob Reviews, the review where I play a video game and tell you about a movie I just saw. The game this week is Fortnite Chapter 5, Season 4. I'll be playing in pubs, solo, unranked, and the movie is Didi, released by Focus Features in 2024, written and directed by Sean Wong, starring Isaac Wong, Joan Chen, and Mahala Park, among many. Didi, which is Taiwanese for little brother, follows our titular protagonist, named Chris Wong, as he transitions from mid-school into high school. He's 13 years old, and this is a coming-of-age story, but it feels a lot unlike many coming-of-age stories. He lives with his mother and his sister, who's about to go to college, and his dad's mother. So let's get this game and review started. Didi takes place in 2008 in Fremont, California. And unlike a lot of movies that take place in suburbs and even coming-of-age films, this has less to do with trying to break free from the suburban mold or some kind of weird wish fulfillment by the writers and the directors. So many 1980s and even 90s and even early 2000s coming-of-age movies about teens always have to do with some kind of wish fulfillment, and there is very little of that here. There's more of a interest in telling story. There's more of an interest in telling a story about family, specifically Chris's relationship with his mother, and also just him trying to reach out and figure out, what am I? Am I Didi, the little brother? Am I Chris, the name that my parents gave me? Am I Wang Wang, how my friends refer to me? What of all of that is who I am? And that's nothing new necessarily for coming-of-age stories, but I think the added interest of having the bit about his ethnic heritage kind of playing a role in the difficulties of finding his way make the story about a little more compelling than your average coming-of-age high school drama comedy. It also prominently features a parent, which is not something you see too often in these coming-of-age movies. So I'll have to start off by saying this was easily one of the best movies I've seen this year and possibly in years. The writing is very dense as far as what it's trying to tell us about different characters and different people that Chris is either friends with or comes to meet and know. In the beginning, it was almost a little easy to write this off as, oh, this is very nostalgic with the music that was being played and the way it's kind of shot. There was a heavy tone of almost nostalgic longing for what would seem like, on first look, a simpler time. But as we navigate the story with Chris, it becomes very clear that this isn't going to be a straight A to B type experience for him. He's going to make mistakes, he's going to fail, he's going to not be able to express his feelings as we do when we're adolescents. And on top of that, there are these fun little touches where things might come to life and animate, or things affect his, or he notices things. I think what really stuck out for me was the ability to create a character who is our protagonist, but he never behaves in a way that automatically paints him as like a good guy or good person. He has a lot of emotions he doesn't know how to deal with. He isn't good to all his people all the time. He strikes out, he gets frustrated, he gets hurt. And that's not to say there isn't a lot of fun. The beginning is hilarious. There's so much about growing up and not knowing how, when you're young, you say things and you don't really have any weight for what the things you say might mean, if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense, but oops. When you're a teenager, you start coming into all these powers and all these new things and new ideas, and you start trying to wield them, and you don't have any idea how to wield these things, whether they be how you can make someone else feel, whether that's a good or a bad thing, or how to deal with the feelings you get from other people and how they make you feel. And so there's moments of alienation and cutting the discourse short with people who may have an interest in helping you and caring about you. And just that endless feeling of awkwardness. I mean, there were at least 2 times when I just like the moment was so cringy I couldn't even look at the screen, which doesn't really happen that much. As a fan of like body horror films and things like that, getting me to the point where I can't look at the screen is pretty tough, but man, Sean Wong figured out how to do it. It is a semi-autobiographical film about Sean Wong's experience growing up in Southern California, and he really gives us a lot to work with as far as the characters, the supporting characters, Chris's friends, and things like that, you know, who are varying types of Asian, whether they be East or West Asian, comrades, and how to some degree Chris wants to surpass that friend group he's had for so many years that he's probably grown up with. He's a first generation American born to Taiwanese parents, and so he's having to navigate this idea of what his ethnicity and race mean in a place where, you know, if they chant your name, they're chanting Asian Chris. And I felt those little touches and details, while again not completely new in film, especially films like Minari and what's another one I was thinking of? Oh, Better Luck Tomorrow, which is kind of what sparked my interest in this. I haven't seen mid-90s, although I get the feeling that there'll be lots of comparisons and mentions of Jonah Hill's directorial and writing debut, I believe. But I was excited to see where we had come since James Wong, is he the one that did he wrote and directed Better Luck Tomorrow, now of Fast Furious 5, where he introduced the character Han. It's an independent movie from, I want to say about this time, 2000, maybe 2003, that came out. But if you haven't watched that film, it's a great one to watch because it's kind of, it plays with the idea of the model minority, you know, and how they kind of turn that on its head and make it into a crime thriller action movie. But Didi's trying to do something a little bit different. Oh, wow, cool job, Rob. Oh no, not Wolverine! Oh, I'm sorry, Wolvie. This movie does come with an R rating, and it's mostly because of language. There are some other drug references, and I was so happy to see just everything very, not trying to hide anything or sanitize anything. It never gets blunt or gross the way that, you know, you might think a movie like perhaps Kids, 1995 Larry Clark's Kids might be, which also I appreciate the brutal reality of that, but man, that is a depressing movie, whereas this is a little more uplifting, has a little more positivity, and has an interest in trying to give us some insight into a person's experience without getting too cheesy, I suppose. So a fun part is that the technology from the day, such as AIM and MySpace, give us a lot of hints where our protagonist is. Instead of voiceover narration, we get to see moments of candidness and truth come out of Chris when he maybe writes a message on AIM and then deletes it, or his behavior when it comes to checking someone's MySpace top 8 or blocking somebody, and the implications therein of these actions. And I kind of loved the film for that, because it was really fun to use those pieces of technology to help express some of the inner thoughts and angst of our character. Most of the time it seems like they put these things in and they're not really, it feels like, wow, look at this old thing, check out this old stuff. Isn't that exciting and interesting and crazy? Or again, even more nostalgic, where you're just like, And it does feel like Chris is trying to deal with many different lives of not just being like a racial outsider in this American dream, even though he's born in America. The divide between his paternal grandmother and his own mother and where he's at and where his friends are at is one of those things that kind of helps explain how it can be so isolating, especially in your teen years, when I think it's helpful to have a good support system. I mean, even to some extent, his own sister doesn't seem to understand him until partway through the film, when she, I think, is able to notice and recognize his loneliness and his alienation. And that's where this film wins as far as coming of age stories are concerned. The familial involvement makes it something else. Most times you'd have a grandmother, and you'd expect that at one point we'd all get manipulated with her death. That we'd all have to sit there and go, oh, he had to lose his mother or his grandmother, now we're sad. But the film doesn't rely on cheap tricks like that. It sets up some things and then delivers on others, and maybe to some extent we kind of lose the thread on other characters and ideas. But overall, how well written this film is what helps it shine through. In one scene, you're sitting there listening to all these friends of Chris just use foul language all the time, say terrible things, mocking things that definitely wouldn't fly today on the internet or even in mixed company. But then in the next moment, you meet one of Chris's contemporaries who doesn't say any bad words, and then he talks about how he's not saying any bad words, and it's hilarious. I don't know. It's one of those things where you're like, oh, I remember that kid. I remember that kid who took up not cussing for some reason. I don't know why, but or they just wouldn't do it. Or the religious kid who wouldn't say bad words. We all knew those kids in school growing up. And I guess that's how it becomes somewhat universal, is that we get a glimpse into adolescence where we get to see such nuance and possible depth in characters. I'll let them work it out, see what they think. Fine. Can't get this jump dash down, man. No! Come get me. See if we can't survive this. Alright, there we go. Well, I'm not gonna make it, am I? Highly, highly recommend it. I think you should definitely check it out. It's definitely one of the best films of the year. I'm sorry I couldn't give a more comprehensive review. So have you seen Didi 2024? Check it out sometime. Come watch me on my gaming channel, Rob's Not Playing, on twitch.tv/HolidayRob. You can check out Holiday Rob on all the socials. Thanks for hanging out with me here on Rob Reviews, and hopefully we'll see some more movies and review some more stuff. Till next time, thanks and peace out.